Thank you all for coming for this very special occasion of the club's 35 years anniversary. What I'd just like to kind of firstly acknowledge the two guys that put together, organised today, Rafi and Sean, two of our two of our more junior members, and it's kind of a wonderful opportunity for them to experience a lot of the more senior people who are part of the club.
You can say older.
The most experienced. Because I think that really shows how ingrained the loyalty and the special attachment that all of you, I'm sure, have to York, as we do, and hopefully the new wave of players will, of which these are they, and it's important that they see what camaraderie and friendship has existed in the club over the years. I joined the club in 1997. I think it was kind of just at the change of the guard somewhat. I think a lot of you founding members and established players had kind of moved on and discovered golf.
Several were in jail.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, yeah. But
one of them died and became Rod Stewart.
But I was very lucky to get in, and when a few of you are still playing, Branch, of course, was captain, Henry, Cliff, and Noel, Pinto, Frank, of course, opened the bowling with Frank on a number of occasions. Barry was kind of in this twilight of his prestigious career. But it was a great chance to get into a club that had so much history, and I was very fortunate, and I would never have gone anywhere else. It's quite ironic that this year also is the 50-year celebration of the Rolling Stones. It's kind of how I feel, like a stone. I haven't done anything decent for years, and I just can't let it go.
Please, Diamond Jubilee, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But it's great to see, and it brings back a lot of memories for me. Watching Henry bat. I mean, no bowler wanted to bowl to Henry, mainly not so much they're going to get knocked out of the field, but more the fact that Henry ran his teammates out, so the weren't getting great. And of course, as I mentioned, opening bowling with Frank, and we still show the same enthusiasm and will to.
And that is all.
But not long after I joined, it was Jay, of course, who you will know, came along, and one of the things I loved apart from playing cricket and the York Club, was getting out of the house and getting away from the chores. Jay comes along, and my wife may as well be captain, But no, he was great, and he kind of really pushed the camaraderie and the history of the club, and really made it what it is today. And thanks to all you guys that started it and were so much a big part of what we're enjoying today. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope we get to chat a bit more to you. But Howard, who was captain, I believe, for many years.
Howard who?
Check my notes. But Howard was kind enough, is kind enough to give us all a bit of a rundown on a little more history of the club, being one of the founding members. So again, thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Howard.
Yeah.
Very small beginnings. In 1976, a bunch of us were playing soccer for Cambridge, which was a hotel out on the airport strip. One of the other teams in the league, Brampton, challenged us to a game of cricket at the Brampton Flower Festival. And luckily, we had a guy in the club, Len Herbert, who worked for Air Canada and was going backwards and forwards to England all of the time. And he said, no problem. He said, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll find there's a bag of gear, cricket gear, are going to be on the plane on the way back. Who said for this land?
Didn't tell us where it came from.
That's right. We never asked.
Just appeared.
Just appeared. So suddenly there were all the necessary bats and pads, gloves that we needed to play the game. And off we went and played this one-off game in Brampton. And my guess is one of us had played cricket in the 10 or 15 years leading up to that, and that was a guy called Alec Parley who played some serious league cricket in England just before he emigrated and was captain of his university team. Anyway, Alec came in off about 6 paces on that wicket, and they hadn't done anything. It was the middle of a field hockey pitch up in Brampton, and he nearly took the guy's head off. Pitched on a good length, you know, went right through his hair, and he was asked to slow down, and he said, "Howard, I don't know how to slow down any more than this." Anyway, we had a great day out at that one, and then in '77 we heard that there was a club up in Orangeville, and we went out and played in Orangeville. Noel Osborne, who was a Lancashire League cricketer, was playing for them at that time, and a bunch of guys, Peter Elsdon, Laz Laddie, who actually joined us once we got going a year or so later. And I guess one summer, soon thereafter, playing soccer, on a day like this where it was 90 degrees and 100% humidity, we all looked at each other and said, "Why are we doing this?" And so the idea of forming the cricket club came up. So in 1978 we met at Mel Tyler's house downtown and inaugurated the club and went through the process of putting in a president and a club captain and whatever. And then basically we had to find a ground. And luckily what happened was that the guy who put his hand up to be fixtures secretary, a guy called Nick Milton, knew a guy called Bill Prentice. And Bill Prentice said to us, "You ought to go up and have a look at Glendon." So a bunch of us came up to Glendon, and this field was little different from today. The soccer posts weren't soccer posts, they were actually North American football posts with the big high things in between. And there was a long jump pit there. See the remains? That was a long jump pit back then. And we all went, "Well, how do we get this?" And Bill said, "Well, I'll get you an introduction to the president of the Athletic Association at Glendon." He was a guy called Peter Jensen, who went on to be the psychologist with the Canadian Olympic teams. And anyway, Peter was quite taken by the idea that we would play cricket here, and we contracted for the use of the ground over the summer. We turned up in the spring with an oxyacetylene torch and took the North American rights off the posts.
We did it at night.
Yeah. And then we had to fashion a way to get, they were permanently in, then we had to fashion a way to get them out of the ground to make them movable, so we did that. And then of course we had to have a wicket. And in the first year, we basically said, well, surely if we just go out and buy a major roller, then we could flatten something and just put a mat down on top. So Laz went out and bought us a roller, which we kept in the shed round the back there, and we rolled the hell out of a little section in that area, and came out the first week and cut the grass and put the mat, carried the mat out, carried the posts off, and played our first game of cricket, which was actually, for an inaugural game, we called it the Lieutenant Governor's game, because this same Bill Prentice had a connection in the halls of power with the Ontario government, and he persuaded them to allow us to have this inaugural Lieutenant Governor's game. And it was basically against Toronto Cricket Club, because Bill Prentice was a member at Toronto Cricket Club, and the Lieutenant Governor at the time was a lady called Pauline McGibbon, and Pauline actually came down and she presented us all with cravats with as part of the day, and we went out there and we were rubbish. We basically had nobody who could, it wasn't an easy wicket to bat on, you can imagine. But I think we luckily got to about 120 and they scored 130 for one in no time. We retired to the bar. Anyway, over the next couple of years, we got tired of carrying the goalposts out, rolling, cutting the grass, carrying the mat out before every game, carrying the mat in, after every game. So I guess a year later we all decided, I mean, we were worn out every time. Guys would go in and have a shower before they came back to play a game. So we agreed that we would like to put a permanent track down there. And that OmniTurf grass out there is actually one of the original pieces of OmniTurf that was used anywhere in North America at the time. We met up with the OmniTurf company and they were trying to sell it for field hockey fields, they were trying to sell it for tennis courts and whatever, and nobody had ever suggested cricket to them. But we went down to Oakville and Laz was the guy who had got in touch with them, and we bought that one piece of OmniTurf matting. I guess that was in 80 or 81. Brought in backhoe, dug out a major trench, so there's a ton of gravel and pebble under that. This was all marsh down in front of these trees. I mean, this field did not drain very well, so we got a backhoe through the whole of this area, right down through where that little crease is, down through there, and we put in the drainage which got rid of the marsh in this area. And then we had a cricket pitch that basically didn't need us to do as much work on. Then all we had to do was get a guy to come out and put the flags out around the boundary at the start of every game, and it was hard enough getting guys to do. Adrian Eves always liked to put the flags out because he could be at the bar.
There's a lady over there who used to know.
To do anything. Yeah. So anyway, we got into the rhythm of doing that over a couple of years, and by 81, 82, we had about 40 members. The bunch of basically English guys who started off the club. Many of them had never played cricket since school days, and many of them were never very good cricketers during their school days either. But most of them were good athletes, and so everybody basically looked at the rest of the team and sort of said, well, what do we need? And where's Mike Giles? Mike Giles over here decided that he would turn himself into a wicket-keeper. And he good wicket-keeper Mike became. And Tony Hull, who was here earlier, decided that he would turn himself into a number 4 who could block it, because the one thing that we were very good at was the YCC collapse. And the number of times that we were 40 for 1 and 40 for 2 that became 54 for 7 was too many times to mention. So little by little, we got guys to develop their own skills, and then increasingly we got more and more guys to join. So Branch and Critch and Robin came in as a threesome, and then we got Don Rumble to come in as well. The guys from Orangeville, Laz Laddie and Peter Elsden came in. Frank came in, and within, I would say by about 1985, we probably had about 40 guys who were in the club, and we had I would say a 40 to 50 season fixture list. We used to play 2 games most weekends, and then we would play a handful of beer games on a Thursday night. We like to think of it as 2020 before 2020 started, right? We used to come down here and do that on a Thursday night. So I guess by the early 1980s we had really solidified the club, and it really was an amazing adventure for all of us. Now I like to think we were probably very good at 4 sets of things. We were very good at being a social club. We refused to join the league.